Poštovane dame i gospodo, cijenjeni sudionici foruma, srdačno vas pozdravljam u ime zaposlenika Adris grupe, koja ovih dana dovršava i otvara 2 tvornice, najveću proizvodnu investiciju u samostalnoj Hrvatskoj i koja tim povodom priređuje ovaj poslovni forum. Dopustite mi da se s nekoliko riječi dobrodošlice obratim gospodinu Jacku Welchu. Dear Mr. Welch, welcome to Croatia, a small but beautiful country whose potential and ambitions surpass our present achievements.
It's wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me.
Welcome once again. It's an honor and a privilege to have a person with such exceptional personality, the most influential manager of the century, and to continue with the way the media have announced your arrival to Zagreb, the major leader, the unparalleled winner, the innovative strategist, lecturer, educator and the motivator, the most hard-working CEO, the author of numerous articles and the books. To my mind, your outstanding achievements may be summed up and stem from your attitude that people are the most valuable asset of a company, but there is no individual greater or more important than the company he is heading and whose management he is responsible for. We are honored to have a person with such business principles at Adris Business Forum. Our pleasure is that much greater because it's attended not only by people from Croatia, but also by a number of our dear guests, our business partners from other countries. Living and working in relatively small countries and the companies for world proportions, we have been facing increasing competition of strong multinational corporations in both local and international markets. Hopefully, their CEOs are not of Jack Welch's caliber, as that might increase our chances for success. Hvala I vama, poštovane dame I gospodo, posebno studentima, što ste došli u tolikom broju I time pridonijeli značaju prvog Adrisovog poslovnog foruma. Mr. Welch, once again, welcome.
Thank you very much. Very nice of you. I'm going to go over here. Thank you.
Dobro večer, poštovana publiko. Your Excellency among businessmen, dear Mr. Welch. You like people to call you by your first name?
Jack.
Like Jack?
Yes.
Good. We've seen a lot about you. You even have your movie. We read your 3 books published in Croatia. All the media is reporting about your arrival. So what should I ask you? As we already know everything, I'll try to ask you, what do you know about Croatia? When you hear Croatia, Croats, what's its first coming on your mind?
Well, until 48 hours ago, I only heard about some of the difficulties that Croatia had gone through. But in the last 48 hours, I have seen the magnificent Dalmatian coast. And I will tell you, my wife and I think, have been all over the world, and we have never been on a coastline as dramatic, as beautiful, as attractive, with exciting little restaurants. And one of the great experiences of our life has been the last 48 hours in Croatia.
Could you take a look? This audience, basically business people, leading Croatian companies, do you consider them, on the first sight, too old, very young, or just the average, the usual that you've seen all around the world?
It looks like a pretty good mix, maybe bent towards the young, which is very positive.
Now, let's talk leadership. Maybe before, you've traveled a lot. What is the country or the area or the city or whatever that you consider has the best quality of life?
Well, Va wouldn't be bad off. Hava. No, but I would say, in all seriousness, of a big industrial city, I would say I come from a place that has a fantastic quality of life. Boston, Massachusetts. It's got great education, great hospitals, great technology, great medicine, the greatest universities in the world. And with very nice bars and good restaurants.
And you grew up in Salem?
17 miles from there.
Is that the place we've read so much about and watched the movie, The Witches from Salem?
That's right. That's right. Salem is 17 miles from Boston, but it's 17 million miles in lifestyle. And Salem is a very working class town. Boston is a very elegant sort of city.
Some of your employees that happened to be fired under your management, did they mention Salem sometimes?
They may have mentioned a lot more than Salem.
Okay, as you wrote, you talk about anybody, suddenly that anybody or somebody becomes a leader, becomes a CEO of the company. You have 8 rules. Do you remember always these 8 rules? Could you?
I don't even know them now.
You don't know that?
No, but I would talk to you about what a leader has to do. A leader has to define a vision, a mission. A leader has to be able to express that vision clearly to his people. He must engage them both in the mind and the soul about the mission. He must differentiate those people to be sure he has the best, understands who is the best, who's going to take the team with him. He must constantly recycle back to understand what the progress is and measure the progress. But he must have a relentless intention all the time of continuing to upgrade the intellectual capability of the organization. So the organization is constantly getting better. They're never satisfied. They're never happy where they are. They have a relentless search to find a better way every day. And they are open to ideas from anywhere. One of the dangers of a company, many big companies in America didn't do that well. They not invented here. They had all the ideas. That's crazy. You must wake up every morning knowing somebody else has got better ideas and go find them. And a company has to have that learning culture to constantly be learning from all over the globe.
I immediately learn from you. So it means I don't have all the questions. We have 1,800 people here, and you are perfectly welcome, invited to ask questions for Mr. Welch, our hostesses are around with 8 microphones. Later on, when we finish this first part, Mr. Welch is very eager to take your questions because he writes them down. He writes his books according to your questions. But please, when you ask your question, introduce yourself with full name and surname. Is that the thing that you're asking from me?
We're looking forward to hearing from you.
Good. Now, about unpopular decisions. Why would they be unpopular? If you do something which is for the good of the company, for the good of the shareholders, for the good of the society, why would that be unpopular? It's unpopular only for those affected, but it's not, it shouldn't be unpopular for the rest of the community, of the society.
Well, look, I think a lot of the things I did in the first days of my time at GE, of running GE, were counter to the culture. We had 440,000 employees. It was post-World War II. We had no foreign competition to speak of. And we built up big, fat bureaucracies, layer on layer on layer. And so our job, my job, was to see around the corner and see the Japanese coming very rapidly, to see globalization occurring, and to see that we could not exist the way we were living. And so we restructured the company. We sold many businesses. Some were right in the heart of the company. We closed many factories that weren't competitive. Some had been losing money for 20 years, being carried by others. We eliminated. We had 13 layers from the factory floor. We had 24 at one point, from the factory floor to the top. We moved down to 5. We got rid of all these people on top of each other. We made the employees in the bottom, the closest to the work, believe that they knew the work more than the fat cat bureaucrats sitting up in the big jobs. So we empowered people all through the organization to take charge. We were doing $20 billion, and we had 440,000 employees. The day I retired, we were doing $130 billion with 300,000 employees. So we had 7 times the volume and 2/3 the people. And the company was not laying anybody off. It was hiring and promoting and growing because it was competitive globally. While other companies sat on their hands. I mean, we were the first ones in the game doing it. As a result, we took most of the heat. Later on, you see General Motors, you see IBM laid off 100,000 people. You see all these things that occurred. But they occurred 10, 15 years later when those companies were in trouble. We did it when we were healthy, but it was not popular. People would say, hey, why are you doing this? You're making money. Our only response would be, it wouldn't be long making money if we didn't act now. A globalized world was going to change the comfort zone of a country that had been living with both Germany and Japan wiped out from a war and was living in a fat, non-competitive world.
Well, if the globalization is giving us some new rules, universal rules, but not all the countries are the same. You in the States, we consider you are more competitive, you are more Darwinistic. Your methods, when you have to apply unpopular methods, what is your experience, let's say, in Argentina, if you had to reduce people, fire people, and so on?
These experiences of getting competitive, let me tell you one thing. If you don't win, and if you're not competitive, forget about it. Close it down. You can't give anything back to society. Only winning companies can give back to society. Losing companies don't have happy employees, making good money, paying taxes. Only winning companies. We had 46,000 employees mentoring children from Thailand to Indonesia to Beijing to Boston to Cleveland. That's what winning companies do. They give back. Losing companies, people are hanging on. They're frightened for their jobs. They don't give back to society. They don't have any profits to give back. That's why the most important thing a company can do is win. Win, because when it wins, its people win and its society wins. And so when you go to Argentina, to your question, or somewhere else, you don't change your values. You might use a different throttle on your values. For example, one of our values is candor. I don't know how that translates. Candor? Can we translate that? Say it like it is.
Candor. No idea.
Well, I mean, it's important that we get this fundamental principle, that we tell it like it is. Now, in Thailand, people are shocked. But eventually, they get to understand that's the way it works in this, so you go at a different pace. In Germany, you can't lay off people right away unless you have a lot of money. Then you can make a severance and you can become competitive. But the terms are different in each country. The pace is different. So you can't take an American pace and drop it into each place. But you have a throttle with your, but you don't change your values. You don't go to a country and say, well, they're all lazy. Let's just let them be lazy. No. If they're lazy, you get them the hell out. And you get people in that country who want to work, who want to grow, who want to innovate, who want to excite people, who see the fun of it. That's what you do. But you don't do it overnight. You have to do it at the pace that the society can handle.
So you always stay with your principles. Only in Thailand it will be slower, and in Germany it will cost a lot of money.
Right.
But you do it always the same way.
Those are two examples, and they vary all over the world.
Okay.
What do you have in that bag?
What do I have in the bag? Envelopes, social insurance.
Okay. I was just curious.
Positive thinking. Positive thinking. You're born with that. The environment, the society helps you with that. You see, we live in societies, in Mediterranean, we are very happy people. But when it comes to business, when it comes to decision, to risk, we are always pessimistic. While we think that you in the States...
I don't happen to believe that. My experience in Brazil, in Argentina, in Italy, is a lot of the society may feel that way, but there are entrepreneurs everywhere who are grabbing onto opportunities and seizing them. When I'm down in the when I was down in Hawaii yesterday, there was a French group there who are building hotels, and they see nothing but huge opportunity there. Now, that may make some people here a little anxious because they see the opportunity and they're moving quickly to build these modern new hotels, which, by the way, will not be as pretty as the coastline was before. But nevertheless, they are seizing the opportunity. If you go through from Naples down, you see all kinds of incredible entrepreneurs, small shops. The Italian entrepreneur has made Italy successful, not the big fat companies.
How close does the leader has to come to his employees, to his subordinates? How close?
My belief is they've got to feel you in their skin every day. You want to be part of them. And they've got to think you care for them, you trust them, and you want to see them succeed. You want them to be successful more than anything in the world. And they know it. They know it. But they also know if they're not good enough, they're not going to make it. Because you're always telling them. One of the things a manager, every manager in this room, has as an obligation by being a manager is to let every employee who works for you know where they stand. Are they doing well? Do they need to improve? 4 times a year, everybody who worked for me got a sheet of paper. Here's what I like about what you're doing. Here are some things you need to improve. And in a couple of 18 months or so, if they didn't improve, brought them in and said, it's time for us to separate ways.
How many mistakes do you allow?
Huh?
How many mistakes do you allow to people?
No, I think you allow effort. It's not so much about mistakes, it's about effort. It's about going after it. It's about reaching for it. There's not a rule on mistakes. But people know when they're not doing it. You don't have a big problem when the separation comes. You have a separation, you say, take several months, find a job elsewhere, it's not working here. The kindest thing you can do to a person, remember this, the kindest thing you can do for a person is tell them they don't fit early in their career. So you're not telling them when they're 50 years old that they're no good. What typically happens in a company is everybody sort of lies to each other. There's no candor. Everybody lets things go. Then all of a sudden, troubles come. A recession occurs. What happens? Oh, now we got to cut costs. You call the person into the room. You say, you have to leave now, Mary or Joseph, whatever. And they say, why me? Why am I going? And the boss says to them, well, you weren't very good. But I've been here 30 years. Why didn't you ever tell me? That's the problem. Managers have to tell people where they stand. I don't know what this society is. Is this society open? How many people here give people appraisals at least once a year? Raise your hand. Look at how few.
Yeah.
So what do the rest of you do? That's a problem.
Not encouraging, no?
It's a big problem. I mean, people have to know where they stand. And you've got to be able to let them reach for greater things. And you've got to tell them how they'll be rewarded if they reach for greater things.
What is the bad, what is the lousy leadership?
Well, one, let's just the reverse. The person that sits in their room and doesn't engage the people, that doesn't have a culture of open exchange with at every level of the group, a person that thinks they know it all and sits within their own company's intellect rather than reaching outside for intellect, a company who is led by somebody who is I don't know how this translates, but a bastard, okay? Who is not straight with the people, who surprises them, who's mean-spirited, who doesn't care about them, is trying to gain it for themselves.
Okay, this was the first part about leadership. Now we'll take 2 questions from the public before we pass to the second very important part, which is boundarylessness. So, don't hesitate. Now you'll have the proof how difficult it is to get questions. And not
well,
only
you said you were going to give a new Mercedes to the first question.
I'm not Oprah. I'm not Oprah Winfrey.
So who is?
Okay.
There's one over there. There we have one.
Hello, my name is Tilin Pigac, and I'm a student at Faculty of Economics in Zagreb. My question is, first of all, I shouldn't be in the VIP zone because I didn't pay for it. And the second question is, you say that we have to be the first best or the second best in all we do, or let's just drop out, okay? So, if you look at individuals who are also team players, how to achieve a combination of an individual who is the best or second best, and also a perfect team player, but at whom other team players don't envy at? That's my question.
Great. Let me just say that first of all, when you talk about number one or number two, you do that with businesses in trying to get people directed to be as good as they can in a business. And it allows you to clean out, if you're a multi-business company, some of the things that aren't carrying you, some of the losing businesses. As for people, we used to break it up into a top 20, middle 70, bottom 10. And there were two things you looked at. One was performance, the numbers. Did you meet the numbers? Did you get the grades in school? How are you quantitatively performing? That was, if you did that well, that got you into the team. You became a member of the company. You stayed as a member of the company. In order to get promoted, though, there was a second axis. And that was the values of the company. Were you curious and boundaryless? Did you look everywhere for ideas, or did you just say, I've got all the answers? If you did the latter, we didn't like you. You weren't in the top. Were you candid with your people? Were you open in your relationships with your friends, with your teammates, with your superiors, and with your subordinates? If you weren't candid, we didn't like you. Could you energize your associates? Were you just full of energy, running around like a nut? Or could you excite those around you to be energized? So, I hope I'm answering your question, but there isn't a number one or a two in a person. You're looking for, you define what you want in your company. You want teamwork, you want open to ideas, you want candor, at least we did. You might have some other things you would put down. And those would be the characteristics that would move you ahead in the company. But you would all know what they are. How many people here have a value statement so that their employees know values is a big word. What it really is are behaviors. How many here have a behaviors, simple 5-point behaviors statement for their employees? Raise your hand. Then how the hell are they supposed to behave? How are they supposed? What do you want from them if you don't tell them? You've got to give them a roadmap. What's good in your, what's good, what you want from them, you've got to ask them that. And then you've got to match them up against your requests. You can't run a company without a set of behaviors. You can't do it. Any large company, now if you've got a 6-person operation, you can tell all 6 what to do every day. But to his question, if he's got a question as to how he gets promoted or what behaviors, you've got to tell him that this is what you're looking for. You're looking for somebody that doesn't have to live in Zagreb for the next 40 years. That they're willing to be global. You want global people. You want people to go to this part of the world or that part of the world or this part of the world. Or you want people to do other things. But you've got to lay out what are the criteria.
let's say, the mentality here is that if you have an idea or if you have a problem, mostly you have a problem, unless you have an idea. But let's say you have an idea. You know what you want to do? You immediately want to tell it to the Prime Minister. Or out of your 300,000 employees, all 300,000 would like to tell it to Jack Welch. It's impossible for you. How do you make a system that these ideas from the bottom keep being valuable?
Because the manager of the first level of people is charged with getting fresh ideas. He knows what his value is. His value is to encourage ideas to flow, to encourage people to reward them visibly for their ideas, not telling me.
Okay, he has an employee, lower ranked employee.
Yeah.
He hears a very good idea.
Yeah.
He tells that employee, that idea is very stupid. And then he tells his boss, that idea is excellent, is my idea.
Well, hopefully.
It happens.
Yeah. Why would you applaud that?
Because it happens.
That is really, that's bad stuff. That is really, in a company with the right values, you would shoot that son of a bitch. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm sure we had some of those, but we tried like hell to find them.
What's the recipe? What weapon do you use?
That openness, that candor, that constant appraisal, that transparency. That's why you had to get rid of the layers. If you have a company with a lot of layers, you know what layers are? They're blankets. And you know, if you wear 10 blankets in the winter, it doesn't feel cold. You don't know what's happening outside. Layers are like blankets. If you walk out with one blanket on, you'll freeze. You go out with 10, you don't know what the hell's happening. That's what happens in a company with layers. Layers are filters. They block. They let stuff like you're talking about happen. And they let people applaud that awful behavior. I'll tell you one thing. If I came back here 2 years from now, and this country does what it wants to do with entrepreneurs and people doing that, we'll beat that attitude out of the place.
When you were in, let's say, elementary school, and your mate in your bench didn't know the answers for the test, could he copy from you? What would you think if he asked you to copy your test? He doesn't.
I would in no way have any use for him.
You wouldn't?
No use for him.
And the class would prize you or him?
Oh.
Who would be right? Who would be morally justified? The kid that doesn't know?
In our class, in a working class town where we were all poor, the crowd would totally reward the person that did it themselves and did not allow a cheat or a lazy person to copy. 100%. Now, what would happen here?
So how do you raise these children, 9 years old, that already know that it's bad to copy?
What?
How do you teach, how do you educate children that at 9 years old, they already know that it's bad to try to cheat the system?
Well, that's good, isn't it?
That's good, no. But I'm thinking, how do you do it?
Why, is that a problem here?
A little bit.
I don't know. Is it a problem? Is this a common problem? Is my answer, which a few people applauded, is that not the way here? An American applauded. Well, there were two of them then. Well, tell me. I think we should pursue this.
Oh, well. Would someone tell how it happens?
Hello. My name is Zoran. You just mentioned maybe 5-10 minutes ago about Italian economy and the small entrepreneurs. I would like the same question, but for the Croatian economy. What would be the pattern for international small and medium-sized businesses in Croatia? Actually, if you can give advice, if you know that most of these companies in Croatia are not internationalized, what would be your advice to the small and medium-sized entrepreneurs in Croatia?
You know, first of all, have an idea with an incredible passion for the idea, the willingness to take no over and over again as doors slam in your face. I don't know the venture capital market in Croatia. Are the banks supportive of venture capital in Croatia or not? No? How many think yes? How many with a good idea believe they could get a loan from a bank?
Jack, that was exactly what I was telling you before.
How many people then with a good idea think a wealthy entrepreneur here would support their idea? You are in deep doo-doo. Let me just say, the way the West works is the marriage of bright young people with barrels of money over here and the people fighting to get in the barrel for the money. That's how new companies keep starting. Everyone talks to me about China, and China's going to overtake the U.S. and all that. It's not going to happen as long as we have in the United States this insane 35% of the graduates today from business schools want to start their own business, want to go on their own. And that wasn't true 10 years ago. You couldn't get 5%. Today, a third want. And you have barrels of money over here from venture capital people who want good ideas. There's more money and too few good ideas. So it's a wonderful marriage. But unless we get something going like that here, we can't get entrepreneurship off the ground. You'll be ending up with selling your land, selling your companies to foreigners. You won't be starting the businesses if there isn't a match of wealth with ideas and energetic people to make this happen. This has to happen here. It's happening in Slovakia. We were in Slovakia a year and a half ago, and all these small companies are booming because there's money and there's energy, and the two are mixing. It's a great combustion. So if you have my advice here is take your ideas and go elsewhere for funding. Because if you've got an idea and you've got a spot, your only solution, if this simple poll we ran here is worth anything, you've got to go tap capital markets. And people are desperate. I mean, if you had I'll guarantee you one thing. If you had a tourism idea here and you had a way to pull it off, you could get capital from all over Europe and the U.S. to pull off your idea. People just see this coast and you smell opportunity.
Well, you get the capital. Excellent. You've got the idea. You get the capital from the world. You have the beautiful coast, Adriatic coast, and then you have a bureaucrat who is stopping the whole system. Now, in the company, how do you fight bureaucracy? What did you do?
Well, you have a value. You have a value. And one of the values, number 3, was hate hate, the word hate was on the card. Hate bureaucracy and the bureaucrats that practice it. Hate those people that say no, 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 that demand big presentations this thick, PowerPoint slide after slide after slide. Make fun of those people, and eventually they're thrown out. It's true.
"18 years ago, you are in Barbados, beautiful island. They speak Spanish there? They do?
No.
No.
I can barely speak English.
And you come back with the word boundarylessness.
Right.
Well, we talked a bit. You said a little bit about that, but could you explain deeply the meaning of the word?
Well, boundarylessness became a word, and I have a speech impediment, so boundarylessness is a real hard word to speak on. But the idea was we had this big company with all these employees I told you about that had, first of all, it had silos. You understand silos? Each business operated independent of the next business. That was number one. And then it thought it was the smartest company in the world. So it thought it had all the ideas to itself and didn't need to know what Toyota was doing or what someone was doing in another corner of the world. So they kept not in... NIH is a favorite American word. NIH, not invented here. If it's not invented here, we don't like it. So that was a thing I had to break. And we made boundarylessness the finding of an idea somewhere else, bringing it back. You didn't have to be the inventor. You just had to find it and share it. And the people that grabbed it became heroes. For example, let me give you a very simple example. There was a company called American Standard. It made toilets and sinks, porcelain, supplied the world, actually. And they had what's called a management buyout. So they had lots of debt on their balance sheet, and they had to pay off the debt. So I had a meeting with American Standard, and I gave a speech there. And they had people with pins on, and they had 25, 15, 30. I'm seeing these pins. I thought it might be their seniority, how many years they worked in the company. But no, what it was how many times they turned their inventory. They needed to turn inventory fast in order to get cash to pay off the banks. So the heroes were those who were getting the inventory turned. Now, I'm in a company that's 15 times bigger than American Standard, and I can't get more than 4 inventory turns. And I'm pounding my head trying to get more than 4. I'm looking at these guys in the toilet business, and they're getting 15, 20, 25. So what I did was I grabbed all of our people, major amounts of our people, and sent them to their factories. Go stay there for a month and figure out how they're doing it. Then they came back. They had all the ideas. Within 3 years, GE's, which had been under 4 turns for more than 100 years, went to 14. Unbelievable. But not because we had the idea. This company had the idea, and we copied it. And over again, we copied it. We copied Toyota's just-in-time Kaizen system. And it became a badge of honor. And the people who spoke at our meetings weren't the people who came up with the first ideas. They were the people that found ideas elsewhere and brought them home, and they were rewarded. And back to that young man's question, how do you get to number 1 or number 2? You get there by those values, and one of them was boundaryless behavior. I don't know if that long explanation to a simple question makes sense, but that's what you do. You wake up every day. If you're any good, you will wake up in the morning tomorrow and you will see on your mirror, find a better way today. And you will think to yourself, son of a bitch, I got to go find a better way. And that's what I want you to do. I want you to constantly be thinking about getting a better way. And you can get it from, there's a row over there. There's 8 people or 10 people in that first row. If I took the intellect of the woman on the right all the way down to the man on the left and put all that intellect and stole it from each of you and put it in my head, I'd be smarter than any one of you there. And that's the way you've got to think. She knows something right in the first row that I don't know. My job is, what is it? I got to find it out. It's a mindset. And you do that all the time. And you read magazines and you see in the magazines Toyota's doing something. You pick up the phone, you go see it. That's how you change a culture. You open your mind up to a zillion ideas.
There is one I like. Change before you have to. In our region, we like more the Italian finché la barca va, lascia andare, which means until the car goes, let it go. You have change before you have to. How to recognize the moment.
In a global environment, you have to be paranoid. You have to know that people are coming after you from all corners of the world now. Millions of potential competitors, consumers, partners, changing trends. So the most valuable executive in the world today is the executive that can see around that corner. What's coming? Not when the light, you're in the tunnel and the train's coming right at you. Anybody can make change then. The job is to change before that's necessary. And it's the hardest thing in the world. It's easy to change a company when the fire is burning in the back of the room. It's much harder to change a company because you smell something or feel something coming at you this way. And that's the challenge all of you have, is to not sit on what you're sitting on. Always be paranoid that somebody's going to take that away from you and be thinking about the next jump, almost like a chess game. You think the next move before it's upon you.
Well, it's a bit cruel. Be paranoid. Beat up the little kid who tries to copy your test. Chase out the crooks in the company. Where is the reward, Jack? Where is the reward? Is there any
reward for the kid
in the
who didn't beat him up? The reward for the person with the moral center who didn't let the person cheat was a recognition by his peers and the teachers that he did the right thing. It's a culture of morality. What's the right thing? And there's a huge reward at the end for doing well. I mean, I came from a family. I was telling my wife yesterday on the beach, I didn't have any currency. All I had was dollars, and I wanted an ice cream. And the lady, she would only take the local currency. No matter how much I looked at her starving with my mouth hanging out, I wanted that ice cream. And I couldn't get it. And I had all these dollars in my pocket, and the exchange was closed. Well, she said I was holding her hand, and I kept squeezing it and squeezing it. You know, I was getting tense by the minute over this ice cream. But it reminded me, when I was a kid, I used to collect bottles to refund 2 cents per bottle, 2 US cents. You collect 10, you get 20 cents. Then you'd run and get your 20 cents, and you'd buy an ice cream, or maybe take a ride on the Ferris wheel. But it took me back to that. When you don't have it, you want it. So I'm telling you that a good center rewards you. You do the right thing, you move forward, and you have your own core of beliefs.
Businessman and hedonism.
And what?
Hedonism. Enjoying
Hedonism?
life. Let's say you have
Hedonism.
you have 90 minutes of speech,
Yeah.
and then 2 days of sailing.
Right.
Is that the measure? Is that the good thing to do? We like it. If we can achieve it, we'll be delighted.
Look, I worked my ass off for 40 years to get to this.
So, some 25 years ago, when I was living in the States, there was an advertising on television. I think it was a bank or a monetary fund, something like that. And there was an old man who was saying, we make the money the old-fashioned way. We earn it. So that was 25 years ago. You promote the honest approach to life and the honest approach to business. Are you old-fashioned?
I'd like to think I'm old-fashioned in values and contemporary in thinking. That's my own desire. Somebody else is going to judge whether I'm an old goat or not. I mean, that's something else to decide. But my basic view is, look, we believe, I now have 13 companies in a leveraged buyout thing. We're using the same values we used 25 years ago to win in these marketplaces. Get the best people in town, reward them for their performance. Seniority means nothing. You just perform, you get rewarded. Outsized rewards for those people. And it works. It works. People want, I find, at least in America today, more ambition in the kids than I've seen since the 50s. Nose against the glass, wanting to deliver more, wanting to compete, wanting to take on India and China, wanting to win. I see that everywhere.
You promote for the companies a very attractive formula: informality, fun, speed, everything good. Can it be applied everywhere? Let's say, imagine a Swiss bank accepting this formula.
Well, I think Credit Suisse, for example, has just done a pretty good job of putting in a value system. Brady Dugan, who runs it, has done it in the U.S., and his reward, which shocked me, was he got promoted to run the whole thing in Geneva. Now, I never would have expected that to happen, but this guy put in this system, which totally is our system, and he got rewarded by running the whole thing. Now, look, these things I'm talking about, people generally ask me, why don't you go into politics? You sound like you'd be very good in politics. I would be awful in politics. None of these things work. Okay? A meritocracy. Where is there a meritocracy in politics? A bunch of hacks stay around. Waste is everywhere. I mean, I'd go crazy in the government. So these techniques don't work. They don't work in governments. I'm not trying to sell this as an all-purpose government solution. Governments are built on different foundations.
What means when you say first, second, or out?
No, when I was talking then, we had a large portfolio, some 400 businesses. What I said was first or second, or fix, sell, or close it. So the first option was fix it and get there. The second option was sell it. The worst thing you can do for a business, if you've got many businesses, this probably doesn't apply too much here, but if you've got many businesses, the Japanese are terrible at this. You have these small businesses over here where everyone goes there and they're losers. They're losers in the marketplace. They lose money. The people are downtrodden, but they're, quote, part of the company. They're part of the fabric of the company. I call the Japanese, when they do it, they're shrines. And they keep these things over there, and the people never have fun, they never get the right feeling, they're always losing. It's a terrible thing. My idea is you fix it to get it up there, or you sell it to somebody and make it better by making the two weak ones go together, or weak one go with a strong one. I sold an air conditioning business. It was in the middle of GE, we making air conditioners. And I sold it to a company called Train, which was a big air conditioning company. Ours was an 8% share. A month after I sold it, and it was a big flurry, neutron cells air conditioning business, how awful, right? It's the beginnings of GE being sold. So we sell it to Train. I call the guy up who's running the air conditioning business a month later. I say, Stan, how's it going? How's it going with Train? He said, Jack, it's fantastic. I get up in the morning, I see my boss, he loves air conditioning. Every time I get up in the morning and saw you hated air conditioning. It's such a nice feeling now. I love it. That's what happens when you get people from a losing spot into a winning environment.
So we are halftime, first halftime. We'll take two more questions about this subject, boundarylessness. Ladies and gentlemen.
Please. Or any subject.
Can I?
Or any
Yes.
subject.
Hello, Mr. Welch.
Yeah.
My name is Anita Begova, and I'm a lawyer from Macedonia. It's a great pleasure to meet you today, and I have one question for you. When reaching an important decision, how often you consult your lawyers, and how big was the impact on their advices on your decision? Thank you.
Yep. By the way, one of our CEOs in GE was Mike Zabrowski, who was Macedonian and is now the CEO of Northern Telecom. So there was, we've had some experience with Macedonia.
I'm very happy that you know about my country.
I think what you do in a deal, lawyers are always not the first people you want to talk to.
But unfortunately, you cannot live without them, right?
I think you have a trusted council of advisors, generally speaking, and whatever the particular deal you're doing, you might go at any level of the organization to get with the people that know most about that. So there's no, if you will, cabinet. There's a group of people that would know the most about it. You'd assemble them, and you would listen to their opinions. Eventually, of course, you'd let the lawyer in on what you were doing, but it would not be the first line of offense.
Question number two.
Good afternoon. My name is Bojan Šantić from Business Weekly, Business HR. I'd like to know, do you find it to be a problem for you to be part of the event that's organized by tobacco industry, and it's kind of advertisement for them? And would you do that in the United States? Thank you.
Did you answer?
I'm half deaf.
I'm sorry, up here it was very difficult to hear. It was obviously a popular question, so we want to hear it.
Yeah.
Could you repeat it slowly?
I just asked, do you think it's a problem for you to be part of the event that's organized by tobacco industry? It's kind of advertisement for tobacco industry, which is not actually allowed by the law.
I was asked to come here by a group of people, and was thrilled to get the opportunity to come and both learn about Croatia and hopefully have some thoughts that might be constructive for Croatia. I never thought about personalizing who was the sponsor or who was not the sponsor.
May I ask a question?
Now, people and management.
Can you help me with that question?
No, I didn't hear at all. I'm half deaf. Human resources. Human resources, you promote really a high importance of HR managers in the company. And what is the main role of the HR manager?
Look, how many people here are in HR? Raise your hand. I got very few. How many people that are in HR think they have an equivalent or perceived to be equivalent to the chief financial officer in the company? Raise your hand. HR equivalent. So we have 0, right? Can you see any?
No.
Okay.
Somewhere over there. Somebody over there.
Somebody over there has got an HR job and they're equivalent to the CFO. God bless you. Let me tell you how crazy this is. Business is all about people. And that's not a slogan. That's a reality. Some people that have it as a slogan that don't get it. It's real. The team that feels the best players wins. That's another truth. So, for example, you all play soccer here, right? If you owned a soccer team and you had a meeting to see what you'd do next year with the team, would you meet with the team accountant or would you meet with the head of player personnel? I think you'd meet with the head of player personnel on a soccer team. Why the hell in business do you hang around with this stupid finance manager? Everybody wants to hold hands with the finance manager. He's usually dull, green eye shade, boring, and all he does is tell you the score. He doesn't create the score. The human resource person, if you're using them right, is the person that builds the team that makes the score, that creates the winning formula. And so many places have it ass backwards. It's crazy. This audience, I'm sure, the chief financial officer, how many chief financial officers we got here? How many? If you dare, raise your hand. Yeah. Okay, we got some up.
What is the logic? What is the purpose? What is the goal of the companies that you manage, that you rule? Profit, basically. Value of the company.
Value of the
success.
company. And growth of the people.
Okay. I'm not exactly sure that these same goals exist here. They're starting to become the goals.
Somebody told me the Croatian stock market was up 60% last year.
Correct.
And 40% this year. Am I correct, roughly?
Correct.
Well, then somebody better damn well care about having profit as an objective.
Correct.
Or else this thing's going to go poof.
No, we care. It will not go down. But the fact is that it didn't happen the way it happened in your country, where for decades the stock market has been built. Here, the stock market exists only a few years.
Right.
And it's not exactly a stock market. It only now becomes a stock market. So our logic is different. Of course, we are listening to you. I can probably speak in name of many people here. We're listening to you. We know these rules. When you explain these rules to us, we are delighted to hear them. But there is something which stops us in this country to apply them from tomorrow morning.
Tell me.
They should tell. I can only say that in my television, 3,000 people employed, we don't have a human resource manager and never had.
Are you a state-owned? State-owned?
Well,
enough said.
can name... Good. The model 20-70-10.
Yep.
Some contested, your Larry Bossili is against, and they consider it maybe Darwinistic. Some say that you don't have 20% capable people, that it's less, and so on. Could you elaborate?
Well, whether it's 20-70-10, 15-85-10, let's talk about A's, B's, and C's. I mean, let's not be precise. There certainly are differences between people and performance. There is, in a capitalistic system, without question, you want to get more A's than C's. You want B's who want to be A's. And so your job is to take the A's at any one moment in time, reward them in the pocketbook with lots of money, with promotions, with opportunities, with a vision of where they can go. You never want your A's to think, oh, geez, I've done all this, but I'm getting the same as this person over here. Oh, it's terrible. You want them saying, I got recognized, the company's taking care of me, they're pushing me up. The B's, you want to send them to training, you want to give them stock options or ways to grow, you want them to have all that. But you want them to give them a path to becoming A's. And the C's, you want to tell them, look, this is not the place for you. This is a time for you to go over and work for your company or for that company. Take some time, take several months. We're not firing you today. We're not stamping you out. We're telling you you're not going to get a raise. You're not going to get a promotion. Your days here are numbered. Move on. And do it, hopefully, before they're 30 years old. And that's what we like to do. And we believe do you know on the soccer team, do you think they have 20-70-10? Absolutely. You don't have soccer stars in this country? Of course you do. And you have average players. And then you have lousy players. And you get rid of the lousy players. You do it every year. That's what companies have to do. It's the same principle. You want to keep building winning teams. And you don't want to do it unfairly. You don't want to do it cruelly. You don't want to do it in one day. You want to coach them out. And then when you let them go, you don't let them sit over here in limbo. You take them to lunch. You see how their job search is going. The exit is very important because you have to coach them out and be sure they're not getting bitter and angry and all the other stuff.
Yep. In Croatia, in sports, it works. It works. That's why we are excellent in sports.
Absolutely fantastic. And you're using those principles. In
sports, yes. When it comes to company, how do you do it in practice? Let's say the group A.
Huh?
Let's talk about the group A, the group number one, the 20%,
yeah.
15%. When you discover a old, talented, good working, innovative person, how do you promote him? Immediately, or you use pedagogy in the sense of slowly, gradually, don't hurry, he might become spoiled, or you do it right away? You're good, you climb up.
You do it as fast as you can, and sometimes you get what he just said. People can do two things when they get moved quickly. They can grow, or they can swell. Do you understand? Does that translate? And if they swell, you have to put a pin in the balloon and take care of them. But in general, you want to keep people stretching. Always a little more than they are capable of. So they're reaching for the moon all the time. And they're never bored. You never want those A players bored.
the philosophy of stretching.
Yep.
Stretching goals. Should they be, like the Americans say, sky is the limit?
No.
Or be more realistic and affordable?
They've got to be something, a stretch goal. Do you people have budgets in your companies? Well, that's the worst idea you ever had. Let me tell you how your budget works. And I know without even being there. The finance lady over there, she knows perfectly how it works. I come in to the budget review, and you're the boss. I prepare many, many slides showing the economy is bad, things are difficult, the competitors are stronger. Oh, it's awful. The weather is going to be bad this year. And I've got many, many slides. And so I say the most I can deliver is 2. And I get all my slides together. You come in with your bosses, the finance chief, the lawyer. You sit there after I give my presentation, and you say, you can do more. We know you can do more. The economy's not going to be that bad. I want you to do 4. So we sit there, and we sit there. No windows, generally, and we're having this meeting. No customers. No one knows we're doing this waste of time. And then finally we say, 3 is the number. 3 is the budget. Not 4, not 2. I go back to my team. I have a big party. Ha! We only had to give the stupid ones 3, not 4. And my team cheers me for bringing back only 3. You go home and say, I got the bastards to move up from 2 to 3. I got them. And nobody knew. It didn't do anybody any good. Now describe a meeting that goes like this. Come on in for your review. Tell me how much you can do. What do you want? How much do you want R&D? How much do you want to buy a company? What companies do you want to buy? How can you do it? And you say to them, give me everything. And then you say, no, I can't spend that much in R&D. I can't buy that company, but I can buy this one. The whole discussion is around how big can we be? The meeting we had in the budget review was how small can we be? I've been in there working for 8 hours saying how small I can do, how little I can do. This other discussion is how much you can do. Now you have a budget. It's called a stretch budget. And it might be twice, it might be instead of 2 or 4, it's 6. But we all see how we might do it. Now, we never made a stretch budget, ever. But we always did 4 to 5 points more than the investors thought we ever could. Because people trusted each other, and you weren't paid on, the only thing you got paid on was your growth over the prior year, 1, and your growth versus your competition. You never mentioned budget. Why would you ever pay somebody versus budget? That's that negotiation that went on in the room. That has nothing to do with the marketplace. That's the stupidest invention that ever came, a budget. I'm telling you. So you want to have an energized, exciting meeting about how big, how fast, and then you trust each other. There will be performance against last year and competition, external factors.
2 more questions from the public.
May I ask a question? My name is Mari Matias. I'm a student at Faculty of Electrotechnics. My question...
We can't hear you.
Take your mic back a bit.
Yeah. Don't approach the mic so much.
Is it all right? This way?
Yeah.
Okay. We're here. you hear us? Do you hear me?
Yes.
We hear, but we cannot understand.
My question is part of proposal, part of question. I think you have to put your money where your mouth was. That way, if you say that we're so magnificent country and that everyone would give their money here to invest in our tourism, have you considered investing here in Croatia? And if you have, where would you invest? In what industry? Thank you.
I don't know at all about enough about Croatia's industries to tell you where I would invest in industries. I'd have to see a proposal and an idea. I do know that I'm with some friends who are looking at Croatian golf courses, building a golf course in Croatia. They're on this trip. The government bureaucracy is very difficult, as you might know, in getting the land permits, etc., for the golf course. But they intend to push very hard for a golf course in Croatia. And I think that there's a market for one, too.
May I? Do you hear
Next.
question?
Yes.
No? Yes. My name is Krešimir Sever. I'm a president of Independent Trade Unions of Croatia.
Yep.
Just one, maybe two simple questions. First, did you sleep well after layoffs, after firing tens of thousands of workers? Did you ever ask yourself how they will manage in the future, how they will survive, etc., etc.? I think that this can be an easy or maybe a complex answer for you, but it's easy question for me. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's a very easy question.
Jack, we have many trade unionists.
Yeah, it's a very good question for me, too. I had very strong relationships with the head of our trade union. We always had candid, open discussions about what we could and couldn't do. And he was enlightened enough to understand that we had to be competitive or everything would be lost. And in fact, I felt very good about, and I slept very well on decisions that were made to make us competitive so we don't end up like General Motors now, where your trade union partners are sinking the company and people have been laid off steadily for the last 15 years. So I looked straight in the eye. Here's why you do
it. Mr. Sever, you have a follow-up? That was a tough one. Good. Now the model Six Sigma.
That's a bore.
It's boring, yeah? Okay. About sex and business, you have any?
What would you like to say?
Well, just to explain the Six Sigma.
Well, I'll do it in two sentences so I won't bore you to death. Six Sigma is a process to put in place to reduce variation in your company. The idea is customers get what they want, when they want it, and it's right the first time. So Six Sigma is a technique which you can train your people in to reduce variation. Variation is evil. And once you reduce variation, your costs are improved dramatically and your market share gains are enormous because people get what they want when they want it. That's all Six Sigma is.
Increasing the value of General Electric, you made many shareholders rich.
And our employees were our largest shareholders.
Do they write you Christmas cards? Are they grateful at least?
Look, I would say this. The most important people that improve their lives from General Electric's success are not Wall Street faceless investors. there are 300,000 people that changed their lives. Changed their lives. Second homes, second cars, all these things came to them. I would sit there on a Friday. On Fridays, we would get the list of, stock options. We gave stock options to 70,000 people. Now, we did not, to my trade union friend, we did not give it to the trade unions. I tried very hard to. And they said, thank you, but no thank you. If you give it to us, you must give the same amount to each one of us. That's our principle. And I said, no way. Because what we did with stock options, the top 20% got more, the middle 70 got middle amounts, the bottom 10 got zero. So our trade unionists lost out on a 50-fold increase for their efforts because they've said everyone must be treated the same. I would never treat everybody the same. And I would say to our people when we gave out the options, I would say it's good news for everybody. It's good news for those who got it. And they say, oh yeah, of course, stock's gone up 20% a year for 5 years. And I'd say it's even better news for those of you who didn't get it. Because we gave them to our good employees. So you should go right into your boss today, if you didn't get them, and have a conversation about why not me. Unless he's lying to you, you didn't get him because you're not very good. Go have that conversation. But in the end, I'd sit there on a Friday, I'd see somebody making $70,000 a year, an engineer. I'd look down on the sheet, and they would have stock options of $350,000 to $500,000 gains, and I would think, what a hell of a weekend. What a great thing for them. And that's the excitement of creating all this wealth for all these. Our employees owned 14% of the company. The top 100 people in the company got fewer than 5% of the stock options. It went to the people. And they won big. They changed their lives. I get letters from them.
What is your philosophy about money? Well, you are a wealthy person. Your name is Welch. I mean, everything goes fine. You are in Bloomingdale's, in Saks Fifth Avenue. Never mind. And you buy something that costs $99, and you give a bill of $100. And you wait for the change of $1. There is a queue behind you, but you wait. And the lady has to go somewhere and change the money. Do you wait for that dollar?
Absolutely.
Or you do wait.
But if I go to a restaurant and I get good service, I'm very, very generous in rewarding people in the service industry for taking care of me. That's a different thing.
I can guess. I mean, we did a survey. We didn't ask for $1. We asked, let's say, for a quarter. We made a survey among Croats, 600 of them. Would you wait for the quarter, the change? If there are other people in line, you wait. 88%, no, I wouldn't wait. I leave. So I'm telling you, it's a different mentality. A mentality that the globalization is approaching, definitely. But we are not the same, we don't have the same business attitude as you have. So certain things...
What does that mean, though? What does it mean that 88% of Croatians wouldn't get their change going to a store?
Yeah, I'll tell you
what. I don't get it. Help me.
On the other hand, we put a half kuna. Kuna is our currency. It's 1 kuna. We put half of the kuna on the street. Hundreds of people passed. Nobody picked up half of kuna. And we put a box, just a red box. Everybody was playing football with that box. and then we put a piece of bread. Nobody touched the bread except an old lady that moved the bread aside. To you, money is religion. To us, bread is religion. So that's the difference.
I'm not sure I buy that. That sounds like a lot of BS to me.
Happens. Very good. What is the good advice you got from your boss that you remember?
From my boss? A couple of things. One is I got my first raise, and it was $1,000. I was making $10,000. I was quite happy with my raise, and there were 7 of us in the group in a room. I got $1,000. I was happy till I came back to my room, and I realized that everybody else had gotten $1,000. And I didn't think some of them were very good at all. So I quit. I left
After the raise?
After the raise. I left GE. I left GE for 90 days until my official leaving. My furniture had moved, my family had moved, and the boss from New York came up and said to me, "Don't go. I know you're good. I'll take care of you." So I brought my furniture back, brought my family back, and stayed. So I never again stopped differentiating. I learned to differentiate in playing baseball and football as a kid. We picked the best players first. The last players we ignored. The same thing is true at work. The second thing I learned, I blew up a factory my second year in the job. No one was killed. The roof was blown off. Everything was a disaster. I was called down to New York, which is 150 miles away, by my boss's boss, because my boss all of a sudden didn't know me once I blew the factory up. So I had to go down to see the boss's boss. And when I got down there, all this man wanted to do was ask me, what did I learn about it? Could I fix it? Did I understand it? How did it happen? Very Socratic method of understanding the problem. I learned then, never kick somebody when they're down. So I've never kicked anybody when they were down, and I've differentiated all my life from 2 bosses.
Questions from the public?
I have a question.
Yeah.
There's your quiz on the website, and one of the questions is about letting your assistant to his sister's wedding. And to gain most points on the quiz, you're supposed to circle that you wouldn't let your assistant to his sister's wedding. So my question is how do you combine being a tough boss and also some human feelings in the business? Thank you.
First of all, I have no idea about this website. It's not mine. And if there's a quiz, it isn't mine. So the question is, your assistant's sister is getting married, and you, as the boss, wouldn't let her go? Is that the question?
Yes, that was the question on the quiz.
That's a stupid question. Of course you'd let her go.
But on the Adriatic Forum, it says that you made this quiz.
I didn't make the quiz. I never saw the quiz.
Thank you.
Next. After this, nobody will ask questions anymore.
What?
Yeah, here is a question. It's okay?
Yes, please.
Yeah, and this side, Mr. Welch. My name is Zofia Mazej Kukovic. I'm president of the board in the company Esotech, Slovenia. My question for you is, what about women in your team?
Well, without question, we have had great success with women. When I retired, 22% of the profits of the company were being run by women as CEOs of different businesses. But look, to the bigger question of women. So I have no concerned that you want to get as many women as you can get into your leadership role. That is clear. There is no cabal of men sitting around keeping women out. But there is a problem. And we all have to face the reality. Harvard Business School ran a test. 1990, 95, 2005, graduates of the business school. 52% were women. 48% were men. Women were more Baker Scholars. My wife here is a Baker Scholar at Harvard Business School. That's the top 5%. These people who had this graduation rate, in 2005, 38% of the female graduates were still working. 99% of the men were still working. Why is that? Well, you can get ready to throw eggs at me, but it's biology. It's biology. Women have babies. They make choices. These are difficult choices, but they make them. And when they make them, they step off the train. Thank God they do, to take care of children. But that is why people say, why is the glass ceiling so? The availability of women is drastically reduced compared to men because of that cultural issue. Sorry, it's real.
Can I? Up here. Right up.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Mr. Welch, I'm a biologist, and I think there is some fault of biologists to have concentrated on studying only the predatorship and parasitism, the fight, the struggle of the strongest or whatever. In the meantime, we learn more that it's more the survival of the luckiest rather than the survival of the stronger one, because you have very little merit for your success, because you didn't choose your genes, you didn't choose your mom, you didn't choose the environment, and there were people who were unlucky. So it's much more this living with the philosophy that in life there is good luck and bad luck and something in between. And how do we punish the bad luck? Say Stephen Hawking. 50 years ago, the technology wouldn't be there to recognize that he had genius. 50 years ago, only he would be crippled idiot. Because of technology, he is crippled genius. There are lazy people, but we'll know soon that that's the level of serotonin and so on. My point is, because we don't have much time to discuss this, that we Europeans are not as dumb as we look. And we could very successfully copy, sometimes better than many of you can perform, but we don't want. First, we notice that we live longer in West Europe. For some reason, our lifespan is longer than in America. But that makes you think. Second, this winning is childish. It lasts short time. It's not a happiness. And my point would be, I'll finish with a question. I don't want to give a lesson
I hope so.
But, you know, Carnegie, the famous Carnegie who started with donations, said, "Why die rich?" And said, it's not a trivial thing. So we work hard, and we earn millions and billions, and eventually we die. Is dying rich a virtue? I'll leave you with this question, because...
Is that the question?
For example, that's one question. And second is really that the biologists are starting only to look at other side of life, which is cooperation and symbiosis. And only because we've put the microscope into that part of life, we discover that all over the place there is addiction to living together. We haven't been studying it, and I think there was the whole philosophical influence on business and so on. And you know that American style will also pass. in Renaissance, there was a bloom of creativity. And so right now is the explosion of the organization. But soon, what do you think is the next stage in the evolution of our society? What is the next stage beyond American capitalism? I'm sorry that I made so many people so impatient.
Professor Radman, you are welcome.
Well, I think, first of all, to your question of dying rich, I think people do have to take count of how much impact have they had on other people's lives, and have they made more and more people, starting with their own families, better and happier and healthier because they were there? Did they make a footprint in the sand, or was it washed away by water? I think you have to judge that yourself. How much have you done for others? I feel very lucky, to your point, and also very fortunate in being able to have touched a lot of people and changed the course of their lives, short as they might be. As far as the next step is concerned, there's no question that globalization and capitalism is by far the best chance to have the have-nots get more of what the haves have. There is no question that we have brought hundreds of millions of Indians into a better way of living, hundreds of millions of Chinese. We haven't touched Africa yet. We have an enormous challenge to get Africa. But one thing I'll guarantee you, capitalism beats the hell out of giving the have-nots a chance over government aid. Government aid is wasted on sinful bureaucrats and corruption. And that's a fact.
We'll take the last question.
Thank you. No. First to introduce myself. My name is Vincenzo Tarabene. I'm a recent graduate on the Faculty of Economics in Split. And currently, do you hear me?
Yes, very well.
And currently, I'm the president of ISEC in Croatia, student organizational international one. I don't want to take much of your time. However, I feel that we should go back to problems of Croatia. So I would first like to share my opinion and then ask for the question. I believe that the reason why we have the problems that we have in our country lies in me, lies in every one of us. And the reason for it is because I'm full of people who are just sitting, no matter the age, young, the old one. They are just sitting and they are talking about the problems, but they are not doing anything. However, we have been talking a lot about the company itself, like it exists in a specific bubble, like it doesn't exist in an environment. So my question is, I know that definitely I want to do something, but how to reach that critical mass to really change something in our countries? Not just to leave this seminar, be motivated, and then again be stuck in the environment that is stopping us to do actually something. Thank you very much.
That's probably a much bigger question than I can answer, but I can take some swings at it. It's going to take a culture that rewards, if you will, lucky success or whatever. Our country, for all its faults, and we have many, rewards the entrepreneurs who build and engineer the society. Whether it was Carnegie, whether it was Rockefeller, now it's Gates and Dell and these companies. These people are not pushed down. Somebody told me a story about Croatians earlier today. If you're in Isevic, I think is how you say it, the tennis player from Split, showed up in his hometown of America, they would have a parade with bands, and they would carry him on their shoulders. There's something in this culture that lets him come home. Yeah, we know you won. Yes, please don't bring it up again. That was the story that was conveyed to me this morning. Now, if in fact that's wrong, that's another view. But unless you start to celebrate people who do good things and create jobs and wealth for others, like Bill Gates, like Michael Dell, like these people, unless you make heroes, you will have a tough time getting out of a very level society. And a society needs heroes. Whether it's Britain, France, anyway, they need heroes. And you've got to decide who your heroes are, what you want them to be, and if you don't want them to be, accept what he just said. Because that's what, if you applauded his question, if that's how you feel, the only way out is to reward success and entrepreneurs and people who are changing the game. And I wish you all the luck in the world in doing it. I'll tell you this, and I'll talk to the biologists when I tell you this, there's nothing like starting new businesses, creating jobs, having fun, letting people enjoy the fruits of their labor, and have them live their dreams. And the more people that are reaching for dreams, and I know there's an army of them here, you wouldn't have spent the afternoon's time if there weren't people here who want to make it better. The rewards are enormous in the soul as well as the wallet. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.